Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you don't already know, my name is Amy. I'm an Irish ecologist living in Ireland and I love plants. So in this video, I thought I would show you a couple of plants that I picked up in the last month or so, which doesn't always happen, but I have picked up a few nice ones on 2 occasions. So I'm going to show those to you today. It's been, I'd say, at least 3 weeks since I filmed a video, which is very long for me. It's been a really hectic and crazy August, and so the uploads here have been a little bit more sporadic than I would like them to be, but I appreciate you guys sticking around. I did upload a kind of a recap video about my August and all the things that happened in my life. If you would like to go and support me on Patreon, you can get access to that bonus video plus previous ones uploaded and future ones. So I will leave the link in the description for that. But in general, it's just been a crazy busy month for me. I've just been going with the flow of how busy it's been, and I'm really happy now that it's September and looking forward to slowing down a little bit and also having some more time for plant care, which is at a very urgent stage right now. However, we're going to show you some new plants today, and as usual, if you don't already know, when I get a new plant, I like to tell you a little bit about the history of the species, where it comes from, what kind of climate or habitat that it lives in the wild. And I find this a really interesting process, and it's a great way to learn about new plants that maybe you haven't heard of before, and also for me to learn about the new plants that I've just picked up. So the first plant is kind of a new one for me. It's a new genus for me, actually, which she's doing a lot of recently. I think it's a good way to kind of challenge your plant care. If you've been doing this for a while and you have a lot of plants, you will kind of get to know the general care of, let's say, a philodendron or a begonia and kind of the easier types of those genuses. But this one, so this little beauty is a Dischidia oeantha white diamond. So this is a cultivar, and while I've never grown Dischidias before, I have heard that they are fairly similar to Hoyas in their care. I would say at least this species has a bit kind of chunkier, more succulent leaves when you compare them to a lot of Hoyas, but in other ways they are epiphytes, they are climbers. You can kind of see, I don't know, these tiny, yeah, at the node, these tiny little aerial roots coming out here. It's looking for something to climb. And if you look up pictures of this in the wild, it's so beautiful. Obviously not this particular cultivar version, but the species version of that. It kind of drapes from trees and grows up on trees. It's super beautiful. I'll include a picture here if I can find one that I can use. This plant was first published in 1904 and is native to the Philippines. So we're talking hot, humid, this kind of climate. Wet tropical biome type habitat. So it likes it warm, it likes it humid. Like a lot of climbing plants that have aerial roots, they like their humidity for sure. So this is just a close-up of her. She's really cute. While it's native to the Philippines, it also has been introduced to Malaya, so is also present there. But this is in the Apocynaceae family, which is the dogbane family, which is the same as your Hoyas, and also periwinkles and stapelias, if you know them, with the crazy looking flowers. So it's closely related, well, I wouldn't say closely, but it is related to those kinds of species. So I'm hoping in terms of care, it will be quite similar to Hoyas, and that's why I think I won't, or hopefully will not be shocked about the care for this one, but we'll see how it goes. So the white diamond is a cultivar of the oeantha. So it is variegated. It has kind of white on the outside edge of each of the leaves, but this is also quite muted in a lot of the leaves. Like it kind of fades out into the white really beautifully. It's not kind of a stark variegation. Some of the newer leaves, maybe it's a bit more stark. Look how cute these new leaves are. These remind me so much of Hoyas, the way the leaves come in so cute and tiny and they just gradually get bigger. But yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I haven't decided if I'm going to grow it as a trailing plant or will I try to get it to grow up something. I'm not quite sure. I'm thinking I will, I mean, most likely I'll put it up high and let it trail, because I think that reminds me the most of the pictures I've seen in the wild where it's growing up high in trees, and it's beautiful. Now the flowers on Dischidia are much less, I'd say, interesting than the Hoya ones. They're very, very small. They're kind of insignificant. If you're familiar with my collection, my Hoya manipurensis used to be considered a Dischidia, and the flowers of this are, to be honest, don't remind me of Hoya at all. I think it's a genetic thing as to why they moved it to Hoya, but I'm going to show you, because that's flowering right now, what the flowers are like. Look at this. So let's show you a good example of flowers on this. So can you see that? They're kind of weird, but yeah, they basically start at each node and flower from there. So that is her Dischidia oeantha white diamond. I picked this up in Johnstown Garden Centre in Ireland, and it was €7, so not a bad price, I would say. It is a small plant, but it's cute. So very happy about this one. The next plant is a fairly common one, but it's not one that I've ever tried to grow. It is a fern, and to be honest, I'm not a big fern grower. I have tried kind of your blue star fern and that kind of stuff, and obviously the new staghorn fern that I got as well. I'm kind of getting a bit more interested in them. I think when you're starting, or at least when I was starting out in my plant care, I found them quite difficult to understand, and I feel like I needed kind of a good baseline understanding of all plants before I could kind of delve into those. Now, saying that, this might die and then I'll be really embarrassed. But to be honest, I think I can give it a good go. This is Asplenium nidus, bird's nest fern. It's very, very common in the houseplant world. This is like, it's an epiphytic fern, but it can also grow terrestrially on the ground. But in general, I think they called it a bird's nest fern because if you look at pictures of it in the wild, it often grows up high in trees, and it has kind of a main leaf rosette. And in the wild, the leaf rosette in the middle, which is kind of in here, can also collect humus and organic matter, which the plant really seems to enjoy. And I'd say, like, up high, this really looks like it could be a bird's nest. So I think the name is fantastic and really, really nice. It's also absolutely beautiful. Let's take a look. Beautiful, kind of dark maroon purpley, kind of with a red tinge midrib on the underneath and on the top at close to kind of the leaf base, and then that fades out as it gets bigger. The leaves have this beautiful kind of ruffly shape. It's also really shiny and glossy. It is just so beautiful. And just to show you how the new leaves come in, if I even can show you that. This one here, how am I going to show that without breaking it? This little guy in here. They come out and they kind of unfurl. I mean, like a lot of ferns do, but it's really, really beautiful. I'm excited to try to grow this one. Like I said, I don't have a lot of experience with ferns, but I think I will do it justice. I really want to have this hanging somewhere, maybe, I don't know. I want it up high. I don't want it just in a pot like this. I kind of want to try to mimic how I've seen pictures of it in the wild. We'll see how I can do that. I'll get a couple ideas together. So this was first published in 1753 by our good buddy old pal Linnaeus. It is native to Borneo, Malaya, New Guinea, Philippines, Sulawesi, Sumatra, and northeast of Queensland, Australia as well. So all that kind of side of the world. So that can give you an idea of the type of habitat, which again, like most of our houseplants, is kind of a wet tropical biome. So it likes it humid, it likes it warm. It likes partial to full shade as well, and I think that is a pretty good, partial to full shade and kind of warm with a bit of humidity is a really good kind of requirement for houseplants. Like, this is in general, a lot of the environment that we can provide indoors most of the time, not all year, but sometimes. And the spores will eventually develop on the undersides of the leaves like most ferns. Don't know if that will happen indoors or not, but we'll see. But yeah, this is her. She's so beautiful. Love it. We're having like a 2-day mad heat wave here in Ireland, which is so bizarre for September. It's rained all summer. Like we had I think July was over 200 times wetter than it normally is for us. It's just been raining this whole time, which has honestly been quite miserable, especially in terms of outdoor gardening. Like it was kind of non-existent for me this year, basically bare minimum. So that's kind of disappointing. But now we're having this really hot weather and it's really, really hot in this room. I gotta close the window and keep it all enclosed so that the sound is good, and I am dripping. So luckily we only have 2 more plants left. The first 2 plants I picked up at the same time like last week, so these are really, really new for me. The next 2 plants I picked up maybe about 3 weeks ago, so we've had them for a little bit of time now. So we'll see how they go. So the next one, honestly, was a moment where I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't get this plant because my track record with these types of plants hasn't been super good. But you know what? I was dealing with some stuff that day and I just thought, you know what? I like this plant and I'm gonna get it. And so that plant is a peace lily. Yep. It's the diamond peace lily, which honestly, I just could not get over how beautiful these leaves were. And I've seen this plant before and I've turned it down because honestly, peace lilies for me just don't really work with my style of plant care. I think that a lot of the time they want to be left alone, but then sometimes if you do pay attention to them at all, they seem to like really not like me. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes with this plant. I'm trying to be really, really careful with that. So this is Spathiphyllum wallisii diamond. Diamond is the name of this cultivar. And I believe the species is Spathiphyllum wallisii, but there's so many cultivars of peace lilies and they've been around for a long time in the houseplant market for a long time that it's probably quite difficult to tell. Even the flowers look really quite similar in a lot of species, so I'm not totally sure on that, but I think that's what it is. The species Spathiphyllum wallisii was first published in 1877, and the native range for this is kind of Colombia through to Venezuela. So South America, a little bit different when you compare it to the other kind of Philippines area type of plants that I think I'm pretty good at growing, so maybe that is an issue. I'm not sure, but I definitely have other plants from South America that have done well. I'm not 100% on that. Because this has been kind of, I guess there's been so many cultivars, I haven't found that it's quite easy to access information on this plant in the wild because it's just been around for so long and there's so many cultivars. The internet is kind of flooded with the houseplant market side of things. But there is a little bit of information. I guess this cultivar, what I like so much about this one, obviously it's variegated. It has sectoral variegation. It also has kind of speckled variegation. But to me, the most interesting about this diamond is the texture. It feels like really strange, kind of cardboardy, ripply type texture. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe you can see. It's kind of bubbly. It feels kind of scaly. It's very interesting. And to me, when I saw that, I thought maybe it would be a little bit more hardy when you compare it to the kind of traditional ones that I've been kind of shit at taking care of, which have much thinner leaves. So massive fingers crossed for this one, but it's a really beautiful plant. This is how big it is. All of these plants I got from Johnstown Garden Centre in Ireland, like I said. The price of this one was 21 euros, which I would say is on the higher side of things. But you know, it's a pretty good size plant for that. Also, the Asplenium was 8 euro, if you were wondering. So that is kind of it for this girl. We will see how it goes. I'm giving it pretty good light downstairs in the kitchen beside the sliding door, so we'll see how that does. And I'm just trying to be mindful of the watering. I think because the leaves are quite cardboardy, they are telling me a little bit when they need water, being a bit more droopy, so I'm kind of using that as an indication for now. But as far as other popular cultivars of Spathiphyllum wallisii, you have the Picasso, which is really beautiful, that has kind of more block variegation. You have the white stripe, which has a lovely white stripe on the midrib of the leaves. There's Petite, which is a small dwarf version of the plain green Spathiphyllum wallisii, and then you also have the Sensation, which has really giant, large, quite textured leaves. And there's like a million other cultivars, but those are some popular ones you might recognize. But yeah, really, really beautiful. Happy to have this. And it looks really nice downstairs in the kitchen. So we have one final plant before I can breathe properly in this room once I open the window. This is funny because this plant is also, I would say, a little bit on the trickier side. So I was definitely, that day when I picked up the peace lily and this, I was definitely just like, you know what, it's fine, I'll try it. To be continued on how these plants actually turn out in my care. But I have, again, this is kind of a new genus in terms of, not a new one that I haven't tried, but one that I don't currently have in my collection. And this is the Curio radicans, which used to be called Senecio radicans, and it's a cultivar of that called Halianus or Halianus. So you all might know this beautiful plant as quite similar to string of bananas, but it's a cultivar of that has slightly different leaves. It's not really kind of hooked or anything like that. And obviously it is also flowering, which is so freaking beautiful. So this is a succulent, which my track record of wouldn't be super, super high. So I'm being extremely careful with this one. It is still alive. It hasn't dropped all of its leaves. I've only watered it once in about 3.5 weeks and I'm keeping it in fairly high sun. I probably would have spots that have more sun than where it is, but I'm trialing it there because I like the way it looks. It's hanging up on a curtain rail in our living room. So this used to be called Senecio, and to be honest, when you Google it, a lot of it is still coming up as Senecio, and it even says it on the tag. I don't know why that hasn't caught up yet. Sometimes when things are reclassified, it just takes a while, takes quite a while for that to kind of catch up. It was published in 1845 as a Senecio, but it was reclassified into Curio in 1999. So it's still been a good 24 years and it's still being called a Senecio, but it is not. So this is how it looks. I always get attracted to plants like this that are a little bit unusual and are kind of hanging species that are really, really pretty. So I picked this up for €25, which again, I do think is on kind of the more expensive side for this. Everything in Ireland is expensive. So that just is what it is. So it is a succulent. Its native range is kind of South Africa region. So we're talking really kind of deserty, hot conditions, much less humidity than our other plants from other sides of the world. This is in a kind of a subtropical biome. So in the wild, this kind of grows much more like a kind of a ground cover. It kind of covers the ground and will grow in areas where it's too dry for things like grass and stuff. So it really thrives on quite arid, dry conditions. So that's why I guess my history with caring for these hasn't been super good, because finding that balance of dry in your houseplant or in your house environment can be quite difficult. So you just kind of have to be really careful. Like I said, I'm rarely watering it and I'm just monitoring it. So it cannot handle low temperatures, it cannot handle frost. This is not where this plant likes to live. And I believe the skin, like on these types of leaves, are really good for holding in moisture for long periods of time. So even when you water it and the soil is dry, I'm expecting that even though the soil is dry, the plant is still holding on to water into the plant itself. and that's how it kind of stays alive in these really hot conditions. The blooms, let's talk about the blooms. This was honestly one of the main things that drew me to this plant, because it was blooming in there. Look at those beautiful seeds. So they have gone to seed. When I first got them, they smelled really kind of cinnamony, which was a really beautiful smell. And obviously, as you can see, the seeds are clearly for wind dispersal in the wild. They're kind of like, if you know dandelions, when they get seeds and you blow on them, they can fly long distances, and this is how it spreads its seeds. But yeah, it's really, really beautiful. I absolutely love how these look. They're like little puff balls. I might try to take the seeds and plant them into the soil, but to be honest, I would highly doubt that they would actually germinate, but we can try. Why not? Try anything once. What I will say about this plant, and something I actually experienced with a string of pearls way back like 2 years ago, was that I felt like they were getting quite sticky. And at the time, I didn't know so much about plant care back then. This was actually over 2 years, must be 3 years ago. Yeah, it was during the pandemic, 3 years ago already. But yeah, it was quite sticky, and that was alarming to me. And back then I thought maybe it's a pest situation, I don't really know, but this is also quite sticky. So I don't totally know why that is. If you've watched my plant basics video on extrafloral nectaries, I'm thinking it could be that, but obviously sticky substances on plants in general can also happen if there are tiny insects biting into the tissues of the plant that release a sticky substance then, and that's what they feed on. So it can also indicate that there's a pest situation going on, but to be honest, I haven't seen anything on this that would indicate that to me. I have kept it isolated from other plants just to see. To be honest, the first thing I would think of, a very dry plant, spider mites, but I haven't seen anything. There are no webs. There's no kind of other signs of this. So, and I have Googled that as well, and I haven't been able to find anything that says specifically about these plants getting sticky. So I don't really know. I don't know if it's extrafloral nectaries. I know that the flowers on this can attract ants, so I wonder if that is a reason why it's a bit sticky. I don't really know. So we will find out, I guess. But yeah, if you guys know anything about that, please do let me know. I'd be very interested to find out why that is. But that is the last plant that I picked up in August. That is it for all of the plants I picked up in August. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that I'm able to care for these plants, that it all goes well. I'll try my best. And yeah, it's not often that I get myself new plants, but to be honest, with how August has been, I told you it's been very busy. A lot of things has happened. It was just that time to treat myself to these plants. Let me know if you've picked up anything new or interesting recently, and we can share in the comments of this video. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons for supporting me this month. If you guys are interested, the link to my Patreon is on the screen. You get access to all kinds of perks, including a bonus video every month, patron only, a Discord chat, and a shout out at the end of my videos. In the species tier, thank you so much to Grace, Siobhan and Yendi. In the genus tier, thank you to Amy and Amy. Thank you so much from this Amy. And in the family tier, thank you so much to Michael. I appreciate you so much for supporting me. It means the world, genuinely. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed. I will see you very soon in the next one.